Okay. My name is Kayla Esquibel, and it is spelled Kahlaesquibel.
I'm Lori Trujillo. It's Loritrujillo.
And I'm Nikki Archibeque, Nickearchibeque.
I'm a current resident of the Sunrise neighborhood, and I also grew up over there. So,
I am not a current resident, but I was born and raised in the Sunrise area. I had a business there for 37 years, and my first job was at Sunrise Park.
I am currently not a resident, but born and raised in the Sunrise area. Kayla actually lives in our childhood home, and just excellent memories of the Sunrise area. I actually raised my kids there until, gosh, my oldest was about 10. So we just maybe moved out of the area about 15 years ago. Our parents. Charles and Laura Archibeque.
And do you remember approximately when that was when they first settled down?
They purchased the home in 1958.
Okay.
Yeah, they purchased a small home. It had a kitchen, a living room, no bathroom, and it had dirt floors. Very, very small house. Yeah, very small house.
Were they from the nearby area, or did they move in from out of state?
No, from the area. My dad was born in Pierce, Colorado, which is 15 miles north of Greeley. And my mom was born in Trinidad, Colorado, but she was raised in Alt. So my parents met in Alt, Colorado, married there, and then they moved to Greeley.
And actually, our mom grew up on 9th Street and what avenue?
9th Street and
4th Avenue, which is the Sunrise area. And I laugh because she didn't move very far from after she got married, and she spent her whole life there. She actually wanted to pass in the house that she was, her family, raised her family. But what year did she move to 9th Street? She was about 15?
She was about 14 or 15 after her father passed away in Oak Creek in 1948. And my mom was 10 years old, and then they made their way to Alt. That's when they went to Alt, and then they made their way to Greeley. So she was in the Greeley Sunrise area since probably 1950, maybe, about 1950.
If you know the Greeley area and that area, that was for minorities, immigrants. There was a lot of German immigrants and Hispanic, Latino, Mexican immigrants. And I believe that is where our dad found the house. That was probably what they could afford.
It was $2,500 they paid for the house.
1958.
So yes,
and
it was what they could afford.
What they could afford, and I think he just liked that area. To be honest, I don't remember why they chose. Probably because she was already living there, and that was the area where all their friends were. My mom's family was there, and so that way it was a community because that's where the Hispanics and Latinos were living at the time. Daddy, the mechanic.
My dad was a mechanic, and the place that he worked was just right there in East Greeley. It was across Highway 85. He worked for Allison Cap Equipment Company. He probably worked there in the early 60s, pretty much 60s till 1970 when he started working for the City of Greeley. So yeah, I think that everything was housed right there for them. So like Nikki said, my grandparents were just up the street. My great-grandparents were just up the street, and then my dad's job was there. So my mom and dad felt very comfortable in that area.
And I think he liked the lot because my dad was a farmer, a country boy. And the lot is 0.5 acres. And so he had a full garden, and so I think that is what enticed him also. Sits on a corner, no other houses, and I think that was part of it, was he knew he was going to build a garden there.
But I think when they first bought the house, there were other houses around there.
Yes, there were. Eventually, all those were condemned and knocked down. But my dad, what my dad did was, my mom and him kept having children, and so they had, 4 children already. And by the time the 5th one came in 1966, they didn't have any more room. So my dad started building an addition to the house. We finally got our first bathroom in 1966 when my sister Julie was born. She was the 5th of the 7 kids. So the 4 kids and mom and dad all lived in just this one little room house for 8 years. And then he put a bathroom and a bedroom and extended out the kitchen for us in 1966. And then when Nikki was born in 1970, he put on an addition to the back of the house, and he built an upstairs and a basement. So every time he'd have a child, he'd build another addition. No, but Nikki was the last. No, she wasn't the last addition. The last addition to the family, but the last addition that he put on the house was in 1978. I remember I was graduating from high school, and they were hurrying, trying to at least get the.
It was like a family rec room.
Yeah, and put the sheetrock up and everything, so we could have our family graduation party in there in 1978. So yeah.
He did all the work himself.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, him, my uncles, my now husband, all the son-in-laws now. They were boyfriends then, but now the son-in-laws.
And we laugh because my dad, at that time money was limited and he had a good job, but in those days, so he would find wood. He had friends everywhere, and I'm looking for this, I need wood, or so we tease him, and my mom used to tease him that he just would build it out of whatever he could find.
Yeah, which is true.
Very resourceful.
Very.
So I want to talk about the neighborhood, and then I want these two to fill it in because it's such a beautiful story. And my husband is from that area as well. And when you think about the Sunrise area, this is my experience, and I want them to talk about it, but it is a community. And I remember being as young as 5 years old, walking to the swimming pool. And Lori will talk about her time at the swimming pool, but it was just a community. There were small shops, mom and pop shops, what do I want to call them? Like Molly's was an ice cream shop, and then she turned it into a candy shop. Actually, she started as a butcher shop. Okay. And so there were along the way to maybe within a 6-block radius, while you're walking to the swimming pool, there was a mom and shop store here, and then all your friends, you'd see your friends, hey, are you going swimming? So I want to tell the story of, and this is the story I will tell from here on out. So from 5th Street to 16th Street, how many blocks is that? A mile? So just within the Sunrise area, everybody that grew up in that neighborhood has the same pretty much story. We were riding bikes, we would walk, we met boyfriends, we had, we would just all hang out. And it's true, till the lights, the outside lights went on, then you knew it was time to go home. So when I think of the Sunrise area, I think of, we weren't allowed to go swimming until after lunch. Mom and Dad came home from work. All the girls would make lunch, and then we could walk and do whatever we wanted till about 5:30 or 6 p.m. until it was dinner time. So when I think of the Sunrise area, so many good memories. I think about we would, go all the way. We were only allowed to go to 16th Street. You couldn't cross the railroad tracks. And my husband has the same stories. He's like, we would ride the bikes. Well, they were allowed to cross the railroad tracks. But I think of as a whole, that is the neighborhood within itself. I had a friend over there. Let's go there after swimming. Or my brother had friends, on 10th Street, let's go there. So when I talk to people, Gen X, my age, that's what we remember, is the neighborhood. You could go anywhere within a, 10-mile block radius, and it was all the same. And we all knew each other. And even now we're in our 50s and we still talk about it.
And we still know the same friends. We still have a lot of those same friends, and they have all the same memories that we do. You know, we'll sit and we'll reminisce and we'll laugh about, do you remember we'd ride the bike until it was dark and then our parents would get mad, you know, because we were out in the dark. But
And the park was the focal point.
Yeah, Sunrise Park was the focal point. So when I was 14, I started, my dad said I had to go work at the swimming pool. That was the very first year that Sunrise Pool opened. And so I applied for a position there, and I got the job. I did not know how to swim, but I was the lifeguard of the baby pool. And I didn't know how to swim. So I was the basket girl and I was the lifeguard. And like Nikki
Tell them what
said,
the basket girl was.
well, the basket girl, they had little baskets, which I still have one. They have little baskets, and then you would give, they'd take that to the restroom, change your clothes, and then you give them a key.
Mesh.
Yeah, a little mesh bag.
Put your clothes.
And then they'd bring it back and you'd give them the key and I'd hang it, you know, and then they'd bring me their key and I'd get them their clothes. So we had this, yeah, it was like a little locker, but we did it
And
behind
it was like a dry cleaning
yeah.
round. So when your key would come up, we'd give it to Lori, and your number on the key would match the
bag.
basket, the bag. So then, wasn't it like
Yes.
a dry cleaning?
Yeah, it was just like that.
Circle, and you'd press a button, and it would.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you'd go change your clothes, put your swimsuit on, that's what you would put your clothes in. Yeah, so that was my job as the basket girl and the lifeguard for the baby pool. But like Nikki said, our whole family and friends all lived in that area, so we all met at Sunrise Park. Everything happened at Sunrise Park. You know, we would have picnics at Sunrise Park. We would meet with all our friends. We'd ride our bikes over to the park. I literally did meet my husband
Yeah, she did.
at Sunrise Park. I'm 10 years older than Nikki. I know I don't look it, but I'm 10 years older than Nikki. And so she would have been 4 years old, mind you. She was 4, I was 14. My brother would have been 6. My sister Julie would have been 7, and Karen would have been
Like
9.
9.
Okay, so I was working. My husband's family lived across the street. He was from New Mexico, and his aunt lived across the street, so he'd come visit her. And so one day he just showed up at the park and started talking to me, and these little guys came home and told on me.
I didn't. I was only 4.
And I got in lots of trouble, you know. Got lots of trouble. But anyways, Sunrise Park has a lot of great memories for me there because we did our courting through Sunrise Park. You know, everything we did, we were always at the park together. You know, and then in I think it would have been like a 1976 or 77. My dad was working for the City of Greeley. And he was the housing and zoning inspector. And there was a huge need for low-income housing in that side of town, on that side of town. So
For families.
Yeah, for families. So he saw the need because he was inspecting all these other units that were on the other side of town. And so he said, there's a huge area, he said, that's vacant in East Greeley. He said, I really think that we need to make something for these families. We need it. So he decided that that's what he was going to do, and he went for it and had a lot of obstacles in his way. One of the biggest obstacles was the Historical Society. They did not want to have anything like that because they had old buildings on there. They didn't want to tear them down. So he had to, it took him a while.
It was one of the original schools, right?
It was the original school.
Like an elementary school.
It was called Lincoln Jefferson. Lincoln Jefferson Elementary School is what it was. But the buildings were so old and vacant, it was kind of like an eyesore, you know, so he just felt like, and then right behind that, there was another big building, and they had moved Lincoln Jefferson into that building. So that's where I went to kindergarten, was right there where Sunrise Clinic was at. And so then he started working on getting that figured out, you know, that he wanted to have that built. Well, he needed $1 million, and we didn't have $1 million. So he had some friends at the bank, and he had a lot of friends. Like Nikki said, he knew everybody in every corner. He got together with some friends, and he told them his idea, and he got some investors. and he put it together, and he got it funded through HUD, which is the Housing and Urban Development out of Denver, and then Colorado Housing Finance Authority. Both of them together funded the project, and he had it built, and we opened August 1 of 1981. And when I turned 18, my husband, my then boyfriend, said for us to get married, and my dad said, why don't we wait a little bit? I have a project she needs to work on. So I got married in May of 1981, and we opened August 1st of 1981. And well, it was a family project, so it wasn't just me. It was my mom and dad, myself, my sister, Julie, Karen, all of us. We all had this project together for 37 years.
And how many units? They were
We
three
had
bedroom
21 units.
for families, 21 units, low income subsidized, right? It
Yeah,
went-
they were 30% of your gross income, so they were subsidized through the federal government. And there were lots of rules and regulations that we had to go by. So I think that we probably had one of the best housing developments in Greeley. We took pride in it. We took great pride in it. We loved where it was located. You know, we had some people, the neighborhood people didn't really want it because they didn't want it to be like a, slum area.
The stigma of low income.
Yeah, exactly right. And so, but once we were there and it was established and they saw how good we took care of it and we took pride in it, they loved it. They loved it.
And it was another focal point of the Sunrise area. So people were like, oh, the Lincoln Square townhomes. Mm-hmm. And just over 30, how many years?
37 years.
37 years, the people that we've met that have come in and out. I mean, even when these ones were born and little, now they're friends that had lived there. Mm-hmm. So it's just a whole nother piece of Sunrise that to our story.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that you all are still involved in?
No.
Like you don't?
No.
We sold it after Dad passed.
In 2018.
But we have a huge story rock there with our name telling about it. Since after they named the park after our parents, we wanted to tie in Lincoln Square, and it really does. It really ties it in because it's a huge block area where a lot of people grew up. A lot of people grew up there.
A lot, yes.
So my dad, after he retired from the building inspection, the City of Greeley, he said, oh, you know what, I'm gonna run for politics. So he ran for city council, where he won. He was a city councilman for on and off 16 years. And this was his ward. They call it Ward 1. So the city's divided out in wards. And this was his ward. And he loved it. He loved it. He always said, I'm never going to move out of this house. My mom would give him grief now and then. She wanted to move. She wanted, a bigger house and modern and, all the amenities. And he's like, nope, I'm staying here. And he did. He passed in that house, and he, sorry, where was I? My train of thought about
the park.
Oh, the park.
Yeah, how the park.
got
So this is his ward. He represented it, and if you know my dad in his heart, a huge humanitarian for underserved people of color, and in this area, it's the Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, however you want to identify people. And that's who he represented, and that's what he loved doing. And so he did it, and he did it excellent, to the best of his ability. He was fighting all the time, because Greeley, if you know, Greeley's been moving out west for many, many years. And he was like, nah, we'll bring it back. What about the east side sidewalks? What about the east side streets? We need our parks renovated. So he always brought it back to Ward 1. So everybody knew him as Charlie the Ward 1 because he would, something came across that messed with Ward 1 and he was like, nope. And everybody in the city knew. And it was kind of a funny joke, like, don't mess with Charlie because that is his ward. And rightfully so, they were his people. And that's who he looked after. And we were, like we said, we were born and raised here. So after he passed, I think the city really wanted to do something in honor of him. And it was a testament to who he was and what he did for this community. So they said, we want to rename Sunrise Park Charlie and Laura, Archibeque Park.
And they put my mom in there because they always knew that Charlie wasn't alone in
Yeah.
anything he did. Laura was right there beside him, making sure that he did it right.
We know that as women.
Yeah, we know that. And no, but she did. My mom was his force right behind him. You know, whatever, they would discuss all the decisions that he was going to make on council. They would discuss them together to make sure that they were doing what they thought was right for East Greeley. You know, the only
East
thing
and
that,
North.
yes, he was North Greeley too. The only thing I regret, and I think he regrets more than anything that happened at Sunrise, was we lost Sunrise Pool, the swimming pool. That was a big, how do you say it, detriment to Sunrise. Was
The area.
losing that swimming pool, because it was huge. Everybody loved that pool. Everybody swam there. But as the kiddos got older and they started bringing in the younger kids, it wasn't as busy, you know. And they thought that it'd be the best thing was to take it out and put a splash park.
And at the time, you know, he was fighting alone, a councilman. And it's really hard, and Kayla and I have learned to get people in the neighborhood, and if you know, to get them out and to vote and to get them to do anything, it's hard. And so we couldn't get the people that we needed to come and fight for it. And because I was on that, and it's hard to get them out of their houses. I mean, we barely got them out to do this historical interviews. So it was very disappointing that, because now they're like, oh, we should have complained.
We didn't really think they were going to take it out, you know, but they did. They took it out, and to me, that's the sad thing, you know, because my dad fought to get that, you know.
I want Kayla, as second generation, to tell her story from the second generation side of Sunrise.
Okay, so I'm like, way to put me on the spot.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, so for me, growing up in the area, our grandparents lived there, so we were always spending our Sundays there. So it reminds me of like my cousins, family, being together. We would walk from my grandparents' house to Sunrise to go to the swimming pool or to hang out. Like, there used to be a skate park there. We would hang out there. We would walk down to Moreno's and eat or get a lot of candy. They had like a whole little candy
That's another mom and pop store.
We talked to Mike
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, so we would go there, see Mike and the family, and get candy. And I also went to Jefferson Elementary School for kindergarten, first and second grade. So I have memories of being there. I had 2 aunts that were teachers there, so I really loved it. It felt like, now that I think back to it, I'm like, that was kind of like a home. And now it's in my neighborhood, so it feels like even more special to me. And then, so I guess that's just like going down the whole block, but just being there with my family is mostly what I think about. They were talking about Lincoln Square Apartments, and my parents were really involved over there as well. So I was pretty much raised at the apartments, and we would, my parents would load up our bikes, and we would go and ride around the apartment complex. And so I have just a lot of memories, like with my family, with my aunts and uncles and grandparents. And so that's what Sunrise represents to me. So when we wanted to buy the house, it was to kind of preserve that feeling for me.
Was anybody else in the family like fighting you for the house, or?
No.
No, I think us generations
Well, they were like, we need to sell it, and so we were like, well, I don't want it to just go to anybody, and so we kind of all worked together to make it happen. And
yeah, we were not going to let it go away from family. If all else failed, myself or my daughter was going to buy it. I was pushing for Kayla to buy it. But yes, no, we weren't going to let it go, because that's who we are. It's part of us. You know, I go there quite a bit and just drive around. My husband and I will go down memory lane, and I don't see a lot of kids out. I don't know if the generations have changed. I don't see a lot of bikes out, like from when I was younger. I don't know if the families know each other. Like, I don't know a lot of the families anymore. So I have to call Lori because she does. And I'm like, well, do they still live there? So I'm sad that I don't see the bikes, the kids, and I don't recognize a lot of the families that live there. I don't know, do you?
Well, I worked at Jefferson at the school for 18 years. I worked there, so I met a lot of those new families that moved into the neighborhood. So I got to meet all of them that lived there because you have to be in the area to go to school there. So I got to know all those families. So they're just different, you know, nowadays. I don't think that they, I just think that anything in life is different, but as a whole, they don't do what we did as kids. They don't ride the bikes. They don't play on the dirt hills. They don't walk to Moreno's. They don't go to, you know, buy their ice cream at Molly's. They don't, you don't see that.
And we used to go from house to house to house. No joke. We didn't care whose house it was. Somebody was feeding us. Somebody was, and you know, society has changed. You don't just go to somebody's house and eat anymore. So,
But the majority of the time, everybody ate at our house.
yeah, that is true. Yeah, that
Because
is
my
true.
mom was always cooking. And when she worked, we always cooked. She taught us all how to cook. So we all learned to cook. So all their friends, the younger kiddos, would always come. We always had food. We always cooked, and there was plenty for everyone. You know, we even reminisce now about the days that when my parents were still living and they were there on Sundays, we would have a Sunday breakfast every Sunday, no matter what. Everybody just gathered there, Mom and Dad would make. And they wouldn't make, like me, for me now, I make enormous amounts. Mom and Dad didn't cook enormous amounts, but they fed 20 people. And we'd come all at different times. Like we'd get out of church, we'd go eat. She would come at a different time. We'd all go at different. There was always enough food, always. And I always think about that, and I go, now I'm always worried. Am I going to have enough? Am I going to have enough? You know, but Mom and Dad never did. They fed everyone, and I'm not kidding. My uncle, he used to laugh and he used to joke, and he'd say, we'd go to visit, and kids would be going out, and I would tell my sis, who was that? She'd go, I don't know. He said she didn't know who she was feeding. They were just in and out. You know, that's just how we grew up.
One thing I know my husband gets sad about, there was a school bus, and that's actually how I met my husband, because he claims that he was at the school bus, which was across the street from my house, and it went to the junior high school. Well, they've closed that junior high school already. Since. And so he doesn't see like the buses, like back in the day, they would all congregate on the corner and get on the bus, and then the bus would go to Sunrise and pick up the next group of kids, the park, and then they'd go pick up the next group of kids. And we drive around a lot, and he's like, oh, well, that was a bus stop, and that. So I don't know, do you see any school buses? I don't think that's
Not
the
really,
generation.
I don't think over there.
Yeah.
I'm even thinking of like at the park, like I remember when we were young, the park always had like people playing basketball and like little food carts like around, and now it's pretty quiet. You don't really see like much, so I don't know if there's like no kids or...
People are staying inside.
It's still there, but it's not called Molly's. It's called C&J Deli.
8th Street and 5th Avenue. It's a house next door with the mom and pop shop.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, tell the story who Molly was.
Oh, Molly Rossman.
She knows everything.
No, I know. Molly Rossman. She lived right next door. Her house is there. And then her and her husband opened up a little shop right there. And they did the butcher shop, like you said. They had the meat in that. He was a butcher, and my mom would go buy the German sausage there. There was another store up right by Sunrise, Getman's. Mr. Getman, he owned a butcher shop too. Oh, my mom would go
But
by
Molly
there.
was German immigrant, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
Molly,
because
and-
she started with the Krautburgers.
Right, and my mom learned to make those Krautburgers from Molly.
really?
Oh my gosh. Molly and my mom became such good friends because we were always there, and so she got to know all of us kids. My mom would send us, go get me a can of tomato sauce, or go do this, and we would never have money. We did not have to take money. Ever. We'd go to the store, she'd write it down. And then my dad would go in and he'd pay the bill. But we never had to take money. If she would say, my mom would write us a little note, Molly, please send me whatever, and give the kids a candy. And then she'd give us the candy, and we didn't have to pay. We'd go on the bikes, you know, and my sister Carla, when she started to drive, it was just 2 blocks around the corner. Can I drive there? Can I drive there? So me and Aunt Carla would get in the car, we'd drive to Molly's, which is just down the street. But then she turned it into more of a restaurant, and she did the kraut burgers, and then she did the candy, and she did
ice cream. I remember the ice
cream, and she did the oh gosh, the penny candy is what
Yes,
I
penny.
just remember was that. And she had tons of it, and the bubble gum.
And she used to have glasses. Why do I remember Molly?
and she used to have
and
the
her
gray hair,
Yeah, her
the
gray
curly
hair and
gray
glasses.
hair.
And we'd walk in, and she knew all of us kids.
All of us kids.
And she knew we were going for the penny
The
candy
penny candy.
and the ice cream.
Yeah, and she never, I don't ever remember her saying, oh, you can't have that, or you don't be touching anything. Never. She was just like our family. We just went in and.
And was the store called Molly's?
Yeah,
it was called Molly's. Yeah, it was.
Molly's, yeah. And then Molly, let's see, and then she had a daughter, Sharon, and then Sharon, she had a daughter and a son, and then Sharon got sick and the son took it over after Molly died. And then the son had it for a while, then he sold it. And then it's called C&J Deli now. And it's changed hands quite a
So the son sold it to Carla and Jean.
Okay.
So that's C&J Deli. And there was a stipulation, I remember Jean telling me this, that they had to continue with the kraut burgers. Because that was the thing, the staple, was Molly's kraut burgers. So Carla and Jean made the kraut burgers, and then they sold it now to a Mexican lady, and she's doing, I think she still does kraut burgers.
I think there's still kraut
She's
burgers
still,
there.
and then now her menu's a little more Mexican food, but I think she still does the kraut burgers. So if you think about those kraut burgers from what, 1960?
Oh gosh, yeah.
59 maybe?
50s, 60s,
to 2025.
Yeah, and when C&J took it over, Carla and Jean took it over, they made the best hamburgers. The best, on the grill in the back. And instead of just regular lettuce, they put the shredded lettuce all over it with the side of pickle. I have never had a burger. Oh, can you tell? I ate a lot of burgers.
Oh, I didn't know if Brittany. Well, I want to also tell the story about Moreno's. And Mike probably told his story. I'm not sure he did, but his dad and mom started out the same way. It was a little tiny, we would laugh because Pete would go to Safeway to buy the groceries and bring them back on the shelf. And it started out with, so my oldest daughter and her husband's aunt, Mrs. Trujillo, lived, and Mrs. Trujillo would send everybody, go to the store and get me what you need. So when you were telling that story, I was thinking of her, because I remember one time I was there and she's like, can you go to Moreno's and get me this? So it was always like a can of tomatoes, and Pete Moreno would always write it down for Mrs. Trujillo, and somebody, one of her 12 kids, would go in and pay it a month. And I remember that story. They started out small, but now they're where they're at now. They're big.
They're big now.
A big restaurant. So,
And it's good. Have you eaten there?
I have not eaten there, but we were at the event in October that they had over at the event space.
oh yes.
And we were able to try some of the food, and I remember being very good.
So that's when we talk about community and family. It just, I mean, those are the memories when we think about. They never charged her. I mean, and if you needed a loaf of bread, you go and you get it and you figure it out later.
Yeah, never worried. I can totally remember. I even say to Mom, do I have to pay her for it? And she'd say, don't worry about it. Just go pick it up. She knows. So then we just go pick it up, and her and my mom and dad would figure it out later, and that. But that's kind of how we were raised too, huh? We just, everyone around us was so kind and giving, and it was never a problem, never. I never saw a problem. And the one thing I remember too is that we all went to Catholic school, and my parents didn't have much. Catholic school was just a few blocks away. It wasn't very far from the Sunrise area. Where St. Peter's is? It's on 12th Street and 9th Avenue? Yeah, 12th Street and 9th Avenue, so it's not very far from the Sunrise. So we all went to Catholic school there. And my dad would run the bingo and the concessions to raise money, you know, for fundraising and things. Him and my mom were PTO. I remember when they couldn't afford it, of course, but they paid what they could. When Nikki graduated from her first time of college, I don't know how many times she's got, how many degrees she has, but her first college, my dad paid off Greeley Catholic School.
Really?
He paid it off.
That was a
Because
long time.
Grandpa used to pay monthly to the thing. He never, ever not paid.
So that whole time.
That whole time. And until Nikki she was the youngest, and he paid it off.
And another memory too, I think about, we would all walk home, and there was never any fear. And the minute I remember I'd get right here to these tracks, I was home. Any set of the tracks, from 16th Street all the way, you get there, and you knew you were in the Sunrise area. And once I hit one of the tracks, I could have went to any house that I needed to go. I just remember that.
And it's so funny because we knew everybody on a street. We knew someone on every street. We, like every street, we knew someone. I could probably take you and drive and say, oh yeah, she lived on this street, she lived on this street.
Yeah, she can.
Would you say that you have that same kind of feeling of neighborhood and community today as a resident?
I would say it's not like that nowadays. Unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of new families in the neighborhood, and people are kind of just sticking to themselves. Our neighbor, like where my neighbors are, we definitely look out for each other, and they're the same neighbors that were there when my grandparents lived there, so it feels like they look out for us and we look out for them. So as far as like our block, it's like that, but I wouldn't be able to say that. Like,
There's one neighbor, Mike Martinez, and I remember he would see cars go to the house, and who's there? Are they supposed to be there? Mike, mind the business. But that's how they looked out, and he would always look out his window. I think Mike kind of still does a little bit of that.
oh yeah, he's always watching.
That's not a bad thing though.
I think it's the swimming pool, but my dad worked at the City of Greeley, and Lori will remember this better than I do. He used to get summer passes, and you were pretty fancy if you got a patch, and that's what got you into the swimming pool all summer. And he'd come home, and I remember he'd lay the patches out on the table, and Mom would sew them on our swimming suits. And if you had a patch, you'd walk into the swimming pool and show your patch, and you were cool if you had your patch. But I remember it was like blue and yellow.
It was like an oval shape.
Yeah, it was
and
oval.
It said Greeley Rec Center on it. Yeah, it was a little oval patch, and she would put them right here on her, sew them on there, and
And that was
fancy.
That was the best thing, because I knew I was a fish. I loved to swim. I could swim all summer, and I could go in and out whenever I wanted. I didn't have to. I mean, they knew when they saw the patch
that you were someone.
you were cool. But yeah, well, and I'm sure that he worked really hard to get 7 patches. So, you know, kudos to Dad, because I don't know how much they were.
I don't either.
So
he did his little finagling, you know.
So that's my memory of swimming and my summer patch.
I think one of my good memories is the day that we opened Lincoln Square, because we worked really hard trying to get there. My mom and dad and I would go to Denver on a weekly basis so that we would be trained by HUD, because there were so many rules and regulations that you had to go by. So we had to be certified. So we would go, and it took him about 3 or 4 years to get through the Historical Society. Once they accepted that, what finally happened, if you go to Lincoln Square in the very back, you'll see a little cement. It says Ward 1, I think it says
School.
Ward 1 School or something like that. That's what they
Kept from the school.
from the school there. They had that. But actually being so so happy and so proud. What a moment when I saw all of these families starting to move in. into the project, we were like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, this is really happening. We watched it being built. You know, we had to choose like the type of curtains we were getting in there, the colors, the paint. We did the whole thing. And then to actually see it come to fruition and people moving in, that was a huge thing for us.
One woman moved in and stayed there the whole time, right? Carmen. Till we sold it.
We sold it.
So she was there all 37 years.
All 37 years. Yeah. Yeah, she didn't want to leave when we were selling it, but then her husband passed away, so she moved with her daughter. But yeah, we had such good luck with those. And it was sad to sell them, you know, but it was time. You know, we had put in a lot of years and a lot of hard work, and, you know, Kayla's dad was our maintenance, and he was tired, you know, he did all of our work, and he worked a full-time job plus that. You know, we all had other jobs plus that, you know. So I just think that it was time, but that was such a happy time, though, when we saw it come together like that. You know, I was so proud of my mom and dad, because my dad wanted that. He had such a vision for that. You know, so it was really nice to see that come together. Yeah.
I would have to say my favorite memories are, as a child, just being with my cousins and my family would probably be the best thing about that neighborhood. So.
Like Jess, that's what Jess always says. My cousins being
Well,
with
Kayla, tell the story how you and Brittany, I wish Brittany was here, how you guys would like create
like inventions.
Yeah,
and
inventions,
stuff.
and then they'd
We
hide
would
them all
get
over
like into our
Grandpa's garage.
things, and she would be so mad because we would like. I remember we made a bike, but we like wanted to make it into a car, so we got her foil and like made little mirrors, and we got her soap jug and like made it into a little gas tank. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, we were so wasteful.
Well, my dad would find mason jars full of things all around his garage because they were doing science experiments.
We would get like their plants and be like, he had a camper, like a pop-up camper in the front yard, and we would like play in there, like cutting up grass and like doing all kinds of different experiments and whatnot. I remember we'd make like the volcanoes with the vinegar and baking soda. So we were always using my grandma's supplies, but we were out there doing our thing, and they just let us, and it was fun.
I will say, I'll let you, maybe the school, I'll say it's now the ABC Child Development Center, but it used to be, gosh, it went through so many different, and it's the original, because I think when ABC bought it, she had to keep it, even though she renovated it. But it used to be, and I don't remember this part, but I remember it was a police substation. We called it the police center. But then in the basement, there was boxing. So when I see that building, it's a full stretch, I think of that area, because that's where a lot of us hung out. And, you know, that's where you met your boyfriend or your girlfriend over there too. But the police substation was on the north side. I don't remember what it was. And then it turned into a community health center. It was Sunrise Community Health before Sandra bought it for, is that her name? ABC. Yeah, ABC. So when I see, we still call it Sunrise. When I see the building, it reminds me of that area a lot.
For me, I think the train station, just knowing when I'm going to cross that train, I know where I'm at. When I cross those tracks and cross that train, and right there on 10th Street, I think it used to be the Bean elevator, D&B or D&D Bean, the Bean elevator, that big building. It's kind of like a sight for sore eyes right now, but crossing right there on 10th Street and crossing those tracks and that elevator, you know where you're at. You're home.
Is it the Trinidad one?
Yeah.
Trinidad.
Yes.
There. Yes, that one right there. You know, you'd cross right over, crossing the railroad tracks, right into that. You know, you're in Sunrise area. You know.
Oh, it's gone through a few owners.
Joe Molina bought it, and he did something with it, but I can't remember.
It was a hard.
Did he sell it? Yeah. I don't know what it is right now, but it has gone through a few.
Trying to figure that out myself.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think
funny
it's like
that
privately owned, like someone's home or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny that Lori said that, because her first house for her marriage was 3 blocks east of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's home to you.
Yeah, it's home to me because when we got married, we bought our house right behind the apartments. My backyard was right up to the apartments. So we bought a house right there on 10th Street and lived there because I wanted to be close to where I worked. You know, I worked at the school, Jefferson, then I'd walk to the apartments and I'd go home. So I had everything right there, you know, but yeah, the train. And the other day we heard the train and I said, don't you miss the train in the mornings?
No.
We used to hear it in the morning. I do. I love the train.
Do you still?
Do you hear it? Do you like it?
Yeah.
I love it. I love the train.
Yeah.
And then when the 8444 is going to come through, sometimes it comes through, that great big steam engine comes through. I always say, I want to go watch the 8444 come through because I always remember I'd take the kids, here it comes, and we'd go walk over there to the train to watch it come in. So I'd say that. That reminds me of home.
I would have to say maybe like Jefferson Elementary. Makes me think like that. When I think of like the Sunrise area, I always think of like that school, that kind of area right there.
Sure. Brittany Hernandez, BritniHernandez. Yeah, so I grew up there, past resident, I guess. Yeah, I grew up there for many, many years, and still have a longing and a tie to support the community. I'm sure all things you all have that you're in your memories too. I remember working at the summer program. That was so special at Sunrise because it was at so many different parks around the city, but you felt like that community was at. Like Sunrise was serving all of the kiddos in that neighborhood. So now I still see, sure, yeah. So the Greeley Parks and Rec has the Fun in the Sun summer program that serves youth who aren't in school during the summer. And now we only have them at a few places. I think the Rodarte Center, maybe Anagimasted, but during that time, it was probably like 2004, we had them from Pheasant Run to Sunrise. And so lots of different parks and programs that students could come from 12 to 4 every summer and get snacks and activities and swimming. And so at that time, our uncle was working for the Parks and Rec department. And so we were a part of that program as youth attending and then later got to work it. And that was just so special because we saw families that my aunts had taught during the school year at Jefferson, and then we were supporting those students through the summer. And so I loved working that program and taking kids swimming and the families living right across the street. I loved Moreno's General Store, right? Walking and getting our candy and our spicy sausages.
Oh, yeah.
And pretend cigarettes, don't sell those people. But like just the candies and the memories, and we still can walk into that store and they're like, oh my gosh, how are you? I remember swimming at the pool, of course. I really remember the time as you all worked at Jefferson as well. I'm in education, and so I think that school and that time reminds me of what's possible and what a true community school could look like. And so they knew all of the families and how's your aunt and how's your grandma, and schools don't feel as personable, in my opinion now. I guess it depends on the culture and the leadership. Every year they had a winter sale, a Christmas fair, and kids would and parents and teachers and family members would make and craft their own things throughout the year to sell, and students would work the booths and do their math and do their little coins to sell their things at the booth. And I remember little sleds made out of candy canes and they would hot glue then little monitos, little dolls and things onto the sled. So I just remember the way that the school felt and the community, and actually the old principal, Pat, is now going to be celebrating her and Marino are going to celebrate their anniversary, their 50th anniversary, wedding anniversary this summer. So, we grew up as little kids, and now...
And we're all invited.
We're all
all her
right.
people, yeah.
So, and you all were friends from the school or prior?
prior, because Marino grew up in Sunrise area too.
Oh,
so he grew up in that area, and he knew Uncle Al, you know, my mom's brother. So they all grew up in that area too. So then his wife became the principal of the elementary school there later on. So yeah, it's a family thing. It really is. We might not be blood related, but it goes back to like we're a very close knit family. We were. That's how it used to be there. You knew everyone, and everyone was your family.
I also think about, you made me think, so my oldest sister was the second grade teacher, and she would take her kids to my dad's house for his garden. And that was a tradition every year. And so it was just community. And then the kids would always recognize my dad. And then they'd always ask her, oh, well, we're going to go get some cucumbers. So it was that community that you were talking about.
Yeah, even though it wasn't a community garden per se where anyone could come, it was a space that a lot of community members recognized, our grandparents' home and their garden and the stories there. What else? Oh, Peppy is retiring this year.
She is.
So Miss Peppy, who also taught at Jefferson, is now at the school I'm at and is retiring this year. And so her sister worked there at the school. And I just remember the camaraderie of their staff. I remember, do you remember Lucas was in the talent show at Jefferson? And he was a Forrest Gump, and he did a monologue from Forrest Gump. I mean, it was just fun.
And he used his teachers as the person sitting next to him. So, and then
they would come and sit.
He had Mrs. Mikowski here, but he used his, like he'd say, remember Mrs. May, my kindergarten teacher? And he would talk like Forrest Gump. Mrs. May, you were the prettiest teacher ever. And he talked about every teacher, kindergarten through 5th grade, as his monologue. And oh my God, that was the funniest.
So the types of events, like talent shows and the craft fairs, I mean, you just don't see schools doing as much family and community engagement.
And
two generation. I went there, she went there, you went there.
We worked there.
You worked there. Her kids went there. Her mom went there. She went there. So you just, I don't know if you find that as much with, generations.
I was just going to say, and we're all still friends with them people from way back 30 years ago that we taught with them. We're all still friends.
Yeah, like
we
you said, Miss Mikowski, she's still around.
We see all these people. And as a matter of fact, Aunt Carla and I went about 2 weeks ago to lunch with, there were 18 of us that went.
Oh, I heard.
From Jefferson?
The teachers from Jefferson, we all got together and met. That was really nice. Yeah.
That's super sweet.
I know we all look different.
Well, Kayla's sister-in-law, her mom worked there too. So she would have been a part of your bunch.
Oh,
Michelle.
yes.
Yeah.
Duh.
Michelle would have been there too with you all.
Yeah.
So that's what because now we're still, like she said, still friends, and we're the younger generation, but they remember us as young people. And now we're adults in the community and getting to add to the vibrancy. And so I remember the relationships, I think, is key to what made that so special. Some of them, it kind of depends on the school, but not like that. Not as many parents in the building, and I think that reflected the values of Latino people, Hispanic people. They were reflecting the values of the families they were serving, and I think now, even though we have, some leaders who value that, I think it's just different. It's more fast-paced. You're focused on other things, and that takes building relationships with families and parents. That's slow generational work. And I just
But it was also, that area was German and Russian immigrants, and I think that as immigrants you find a place. It could be church, and for Latinos it was the school, it could be the church. But that area is also, I don't remember what Betsy said, German, Russian.
Germans from Russia, yeah.
Okay, Germans from Russia.
Yeah, that's the big group that had settled there.
Settled.
We talked to, I don't know if you guys know Lori Brentner.
Is her house over there? Or no?
So
okay.
Her grandparents lived there.
Okay.
So she grew up visiting her grandparents in the neighborhood, but she, her family was, immigrants from Russia.
Yes.
But we had talked to her this morning, kind of getting that experience.
Brantner?
Brantner, yeah.
I think it's that house on 13th Street.
They were on 4th Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Across from Bright's. across from the fish market.
Oh.
The only Brantners I knew was Gene Brantner, and he was my dad's friend.
That's her married name. I can't remember.
Oh, I bet it was her
It
family.
was her maiden name, and it started with a B, and it sounded very German, but I cannot remember. I cannot remember for the life of me.
I want to tell you a funny story about the Germans in our neighborhood. So we bought the home right there on 10th Street. So 10th Street and 4th Ave and the Sunrise Park's on 11th Street. So we were just a block away. So right on the corner of where we lived was an old German lady. And she was this tiny little thing. And her name was Esther. And she would come outside every morning and sweep the gutters. Clean, 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 sweep, 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 wash everything down clean. We'd watch her do it all the time. So they were all Germans that lived around us, and then we were Hispanic, and then the lady next to us were Hispanic. The rest were all German. Well, when we moved in, the German people on this side, Kelly and Marion, they lived on this side of us.
Around what year? This is when you then married.
Yeah, so 1982 we moved there, when Jessica was born. So we moved there in 82, and so when we moved in, Kelly and Marion lived next door. They wouldn't talk to us. And I was like, I wonder why they don't talk to us, you know. They were older. They were probably in their 60s maybe then. So they were a little older, and I'd see them and I'd wave and they'd run in the house. They wouldn't talk to me. It's like, I wonder why they don't talk. But, you know, I'm a friendly person. I'll talk to everybody. Well, my son was about 3, and so Marion's sister, Kate, lived on the corner, and her house looked like Esther's. Sweep, 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 clean. All of them, that's all they did was clean. Their yards were immaculate. And my son was 3, and one day Kate was coming across the street to go visit Marion. And my son, what does he know? He wanted to play football, right? So he wanted to play football, and so he got down on the thing, and he had the football, and here comes Kate, and he said, hut, hut, and he threw the football, and he told her, catch. And she just kind of looked at him, and he took off running, and he got her, and he knocked her down. And he said, tackle.
How old was Kate?
Oh, gosh, 70s maybe? Yeah. Yeah, little tiny lady. And my 3-year-old son tackled her. Tackled her. So here comes Marion and Kelly outside, right? And they're like, and I'm standing on the porch going, no. And I run out, and here they come running out, and they were not happy. And I was scared. I thought maybe she was hurt or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, she got up laughing. Kate was laughing, but Marion and Kelly were not laughing. But Kate was laughing, and she's like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. I said, Luke, you can't do that, honey. I wanted to play football with her, he said. Threw the ball, went, tackled her. So after that kind of broke the ice. Kind of broke the ice with Kelly and Marion. And one day I was washing windows and sweeping, and she hollered at me, hey. And I said, yeah, everything okay? She said, are you German? And I said, what? And she said, are you part German? And I said, no, I don't think so. And then she said, only the Germans clean like you do. She told me. And then I said, oh, thank you. I said, I like to clean.
We might be.
And then we were friends after that. Then we became friends, and she talked to me, and we'd go sit on the ledge where her roses were, remember? And she talked to me, and she got to know the kids. And my Lucas, he was like Dennis the Menace, though. He was ornery, and he'd go ring their doorbell. And he was ornery. And then...
But she could come talk to you. That's the community.
Yeah. So
What he was doing. But she probably looked out for him too.
Yeah, she did. They liked us, after they didn't even want us to move. When we moved, they were sad, and we got to know them pretty well. But in the beginning, they wouldn't talk to us until he knocked Kate over. Yeah, so that's a funny story. So we did live in the German neighborhood, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you say that it was when you moved in, were there still a lot of German people there? Because I feel like, I've looked a little bit at the tax assessors just know who owns the properties, and I'm seeing a lot of Latino names. So and I know that it was primarily settled as a German
Yeah, there were when I moved in '82. There were 3 right there, so it was, and they were all the same family. So it was Kate and Marion and Esther. They all were the same family, so they all lived there. And then, what's her names? I forgot to tell you this. Remember, I bought the house from Molly's.
Yes.
What was her name? Geraldine. So Geraldine was Molly's niece, and I bought the house. Well, I didn't live in it. I bought it as a rental from them because they owned the house right across the street from me, and they were German too. See, so that house is a German.
And
then-
by my parents' house, I remember there were 3. The Griffiths across.
Oh yeah, right across the street, the Griffiths.
And then the lady on the directly across. So there were about 3 families I remember.
Yeah, they were
growing
still
up.
there. But now predominantly Hispanic names. Yeah, totally.
Do you remember when Sunrise Clinic was there and the King Soopers was there? So there was like a tiny King Soopers. Well, now it's the ABC building. So now ABC owns that building right behind, the Sunrise Apartments where we were. So the Sunrise Clinic was in there and King Soopers was in there. And sometimes my mom would just be like, go get tomato sauce, or go get, whatever, go get salt, whatever little thing we needed. And it was safe enough. It was just right there around the corner that I could go in and get whatever we needed. And as I grew up, I thought, well, that was kind of a weird location for a grocery store. But it's because they had a pharmacy
for the clinic.
For the clinic. So people would, I remember the pharmacy window, but then they had a small little grocery area as well. So I think that's part of it, is the walkability and being able to, know people who lived in different. When the Aguirres lived around the corner, you'd let me walk and play with the girls over there. I think probably my favorite memories are with my family, being at my grandparents' house, or making a mess. And we would take my grandma would make tortillas, and so we would she would let us have the end of the masa. So we would take it and mix it with water and all kinds of experiments. But then sometimes we would leave it like in the closet, and it would grow mold and it would be stinky. And grandma would say, "What the heck is all of this?" Or at the apartments, our aunts would be working and we'd be there making messes and eating our snacks, and we knew all the people coming in and out, and they'd get over there, get on the side, but we'd be right there in the middle of everything as they were working. Or at the restaurant, I remember.
Oh, we didn't talk about the
You didn't
restaurant.
talk about the restaurant yet?
We owned a restaurant.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, you guys tell.
Well, in 1987, my dad, I don't know how he decided to open a Mexican food restaurant.
My mom wanted it.
Oh, okay.
She wanted to
She
quit
did
her job,
catering.
and she was doing catering and that, so
There you go.
she wanted to have a Mexican restaurant, so my dad opened her one just right down the street right here. It was right. Yeah, and so, 1987, you're right. We opened the Mirasol Mexican restaurant. And that was a huge focal point for these kids growing up.
'Cause they all
Because they grew up there.
They grew, literally, I had her and I was waitressing probably a week later. She was in the carrier in the back, and you guys are 3 years apart. So she was in the playpen, and she was then they shared the playpen. I just remember all that.
Oh yeah, my kids were little too, and they, Jessica, when she was 12, she started running the cash register at night. So we trained her to do that. So she would work at night and run the register. It was a whole family affair. Everyone worked there, everyone, including aunts and uncles.
Oh yeah.
My mom's aunts worked there, But my mom was the primary cook. She
Oh,
taught
yeah.
everyone how to do it. It was
And
so
I was
good.
just thinking, our Sunrise friends would all come
And work for us
and
too.
worked
They
worked
for-
at the
They
restaurant.
worked
My
for
gosh.
us at the restaurant too.
And residents of the Lincoln
Square
Square
worked for us.
worked at the restaurant, so lots. I mean, it's still community. I saw an old friend of theirs that grew up in the that grew up in the apartments, and I didn't know he had lived there. And I was like, "You lived there?" And he's like, "Yeah, I lived there." So see, even now, when they were little, they remember all that. So,
Yeah. We have lots of stories.
Yeah.
so yeah, go.
So the restaurant, I remember Aunt Jewel, well, we just learned recently, Uncle Bob used to do all the books and the finances and the computer. So that's Aunt Lisa, Carla Lori Lisa, the third oldest daughter, her husband did all the finances and the books and the computer. These were old, big computers, right? Well, when him and my aunt moved to Hawaii, then he taught our Aunt Julie, who's one of the younger sisters, how to do it all. And she was telling the story of how nervous she was. She said, Bob, I cannot believe you're going to leave me to do all of this. And how am I going to learn this computer? And she did, and she figured it out. And so I remember we would be in the office, the back office. That's where I remember making the most like messes. And we had like this is so funny that I remember this, like something that puts out the fire in a candle, you know, the old like metal or brass things. But then they had this like little putty kind of like a pomade that probably you would use to use your
that
finger
quick
to
stuff for paper, like sorting papers.
To sort papers instead of licking, you'd probably put your finger on this little wax. And we would get that little metal holder for the candles, and we would dig it in that wax. And we would make the most messes, and they'd come back there, or all the stickers, you know, oh my gosh.
Stickers
We
everywhere.
would make messes, put the stickers everywhere. And so now, my little one, we own a business as cousins, and she'll come in and she'll have stickers everywhere and notes on the door. And I'm like, that's probably how we were. And little Matt, so her nephew, and they'll make little notes for our door. And so I said, that's exactly how we were. I learned how to braid in the restaurant using the aprons. All the aprons would hang, and we would sit behind them and hide, and then we learned how to braid. And so definitely all the best memories were with family.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's personable, right, I guess. I think of the apartments right away. But then I think of Moreno's and Jefferson. What did you all say?
I said the train.
Oh, I like that.
Crossing over the train and just hearing the train just takes me home.
Yep.
You know, just the train and that old building, the Trinidad building right there. If I crossed that, I knew I was home.
The bean. Yeah, the
I
bean
always
place.
knew I was home when I crossed the railroad tracks. It's
What did
crazy.
you say?
The Sunrise building, the health center.
Oh.
It just, I mean, when I see that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Sunrise area. And because it was named Sunrise Health Clinic, I don't know. I mean, obviously the park was one, but just the building itself.
You know what? There's another building there too. We didn't talk about the Famosa. La Famosa was a Mexican restaurant right there by the Trinidad building. Right, so right there at the stop sign, if you take a right, it's just right across right there. It's an old building. It's called La Famosa. It was. And they used to make tortillas there. They do corn tortillas, and they made the best tacos
Yeah,
ever.
they did.
Oh, we'd go buy tacos there all the time. Tacos, and they made corn tortillas and flour tortillas, and you could go buy those, tamales and tacos. So I think it was the Mendozas that used to own that. But then, I don't know, like back in probably the early 80s, they might have let that go. But that was such a good place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, another real quick is Big R. It's Murdoch's now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But everybody knew they called it Big R. And that was another place we'd go in and get candy and ice cream. And when I think of when people say, well, where do you live? Well, do you know where Big R is? That's
Yes.
exactly where I would tell people
Yeah.
where we live.
That's what I say now.
It was Murdoch's.
I say just right by Murdoch's.
So it's like, what am I trying to say? The location.
Yeah.
Yep, Big R.
Yeah, the train, now I can still hear the train from my house. You definitely can. I live by the university, and I can open my back sliding door and I can hear the train, and it just feels like home. I love it. Me too.
I feel like for me, like now, like grocery stores that were there when I was like younger, like are no longer there. And so living over here, I'm like, I wish there were those grocery stores. Safeway was like kind of the neighborhood store, I think, for that area. So that's one thing that I think for me is like affecting me now.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know what I'm really sad about? They're closing the railroad tracks with access. And it's gentrification, which I'm not happy about. So if you go to 6th Street where WeldWorks is, You can see the gentrification moving in. That's why I'm very involved, because I do not want to see that on this side. And they've closed down all of these streets from 5th Street to 16th Street. All the railroad tracks were open, but Union Pacific years started closing them down. When they closed 6th Street, where we lived, I was so hurt.
I think it was in 2020.
Oh, 2020.
We bought the house.
I mean, that was our pathway to our house. And so they've closed 6th, 7th, 11th, 12th. And so I'm sad to see they're closing access over the railroad tracks.
I would say the school, again, because now I've seen it go through changes. So it went from Jefferson Elementary, then I remember when you all went to Maplewood, and that was heartbreaking for the families. And that was my first experience of realizing this actually happens all the time. They redistrict, they close schools, they change schools, they move things around. But it felt like it just ripped the community apart in a lot of ways. And then it became Jefferson High School, the alternative high school, which is now on the north side. Then it became Jefferson Middle School, and now they recently just shut down Jefferson Middle School. And so it'll still be owned by, School District 6, but I'm interested to see what they'll use it with. I think they said there's some preschool, and that might extend, maybe some administrative buildings, but those community hubs, right, are shifting. So I'd say the school.
I forgot the question.
You said the swimming pool, what's closed down?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the building that closed down. Yeah. I know, I agreed with Kayla, Safeway too, because that was our go-to store for the neighborhood too, because it was so close by.
Is that in the neighborhood or just near?
No,
Well,
just nearby.
it was right here on,
It was on 11th Avenue.
on
Where the
11th
new
Avenue.
fire station is.
But everybody, it's in walking distance too, from this area to Safeway,
That's where everyone in this area.
which we're working on with the city.
Good.
Yeah, because it's
Good.
an issue, right, for families. It's an access issue.
Yes, it is not scary. It is not gang infested. It is not crime infested, if that's the word I'm looking for. It is still a place of community. It is a place of love, I feel. A lot of times people will say, oh, don't cross the tracks. And I hate that stigma. And I'm very passionate about that, you could tell. I don't like that stigma. And I am very proud. And I tell them I was raised in the Sunrise area and it's across the tracks. So I want people to know it is not full of gangs and there's nobody shooting and that's not breaking into homes. It is still, and Kayla can attest to that. So I'm just passionate that I want people to know that it's beautiful. It's a beautiful area.
I agree.
It's true.
No, I agree. I totally agree. We were all born and raised there. Our life was there. We were never afraid to be there, ever. I'm still not afraid to go there. There's nothing to be afraid of.
It's a stigma. There's
Yes.
gangs over
No,
there.
there's
And
not.
the stigma, and Brittany can talk about this, is because people of color live there. And because it might be the Latinos that live there. And it just so happened that gangs might be affiliated with people of color. And that is such a stigma that I want to advocate for. It is not that way. I don't know if you want to.
No, you keep going.
Well, I just think that we were all born and raised there, and we turned out pretty good. We all turned out really well. We all have great lives, and we learned a lot growing up there. Our parents taught us, it doesn't matter where you're born and raised. It matters how you're raised. And we were raised with lots of love. We were raised with a lot of people around us that we cared about each other, and it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you are.
And do you feel pretty safe, Kayla? You live there.
Yes. What I would want people to know about the neighborhood is that it is a very beautiful and unique neighborhood with lots of kind people, families, and I do feel very safe in my neighborhood. So.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that so much is being done to capture the history. And for myself to learn more about the history. I didn't know that it was a German neighborhood, and so I'm really excited to see what comes out of this project, and for people to know that, yeah, it's a historical neighborhood. It's a neighborhood filled with families, a rich history, stories, right? Like any place, it's a place of stories and a place of where kids grew up, and I can hear the laughter, I can, smell the water and the chlorine and see the kids running. And so I want people to know any neighborhood that feels scary, or most likely it's working class, lower class people. And so it's kind of a misunderstanding of different ways of living and different ways of life, and just that it's a beautiful place with a lot of rich history.
I hope to have that, more families, the comfort. I've said it before, I don't want a lot of gentrification. I don't want a lot of, I would like the houses to be renovated and to stay the way they are. But I don't want a lot of gentrification, but I would like to see more kids riding their bikes, and I would love to have the pool back. I want the park to be, like Kayla said, they're playing basketball. Let's have picnics. That's what I want to see. I'm working with the city also for like the trees. What do the sidewalks look like? Is there accessibility for all that? So I want to see it to be a vibrant area again, like that.
Yeah, me too. Same. I just want it to, I don't want it to get run down and have that people, oh, we don't want to go to that side of town. I don't want that for that at all. I want it to stay the way it is and keep it up, put in the sidewalks, have the city do what it's going to take to make it look nice. That's what I'd like.
I'd like to see like young families moving into the neighborhood now that all of the older generations are kind of growing out of it. So that's what I would like to see, is just more youth out there playing in their yards, and just cute little families in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I think to what you were saying is like it, of course, needs renovation and change and updates. How do we do it in a way that invests in the people that are already there, or utilizes the ideas, the history, the families that are from there, that understand? I think gentrification is like a double-sided coin. Like, we want nice neighborhoods and safe neighborhoods and clean neighborhoods, and we want grocery stores, and we want businesses to feel safe and like they want to be there, and that there's people who will frequent their businesses. And we want working class families to still be accessible in price, in safety, and culture. And so, yeah, I'd love to see it booming again. I'd love to see community gardens in Sunrise. I'd love to see families coming and tending to the land and taking vegetables. I'd love to see, a school there, grocery stores, and just full of life.
We talked a lot
Yeah.
about a lot of things.
I think we captured the area. Like some of the businesses have been closing down, and that's what we'd still like to see, the vibrancy. Yeah, I think we covered all of growing up.
Yeah.
Well, when I emailed you, I said, "Oh, are you taking more families?" And so I think I just want to say, and she said yes, and I haven't heard from. I asked the Trujillos, so my dad's side of the family also grew up in that area. I was thinking of the Salazars, because Sammy's our friend, and her grandma lives still across from the park. And so I think I would just say that there's so many other stories that we're not going to capture, and that's the essence, right, of research, and just that there's so much richness and so many families who have lived their lives there.
She did talk to Mike Moreno,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
he brings that story. So yeah, and the funny thing is those families, like, we're still friends. That's what we want to capture, is we still know who they are, and, oh, did you call so-and-so? And so that's just what's so funny, and we hope we captured that, is we still know them, and we grew up there, and yeah, it's a good thing.